Buddhist wisdom teaches us that suffering arises from attachment to our opinions, to our need for validation, and to our desire to be right. By practicing non-reaction, we detach from these attachments, freeing ourselves from the emotional turmoil that often accompanies conflict. This detachment does not mean apathy or passivity. Instead, it empowers us to choose which conflicts deserve our attention and which do not. In doing so, we regain control over our responses and, ultimately, over our emotional states. This process of letting go can be transformative, leading us to live more harmoniously, with a heightened awareness of our actions and their consequences. Mastering silence and non-response is not about shutting down or becoming passive. It's about using silence strategically. Silence allows us to observe without being drawn into the emotional turbulence of the moment. It shifts the power dynamic, as the person who refuses to react becomes the one in control. The next time you find yourself provoked, remember, sometimes the greatest act of strength is not reacting at all. When we withhold our response, we not only regain control but also create space for the situation to unfold in a healthier way. In the following sections, we will dive deeper into how this power of non-reaction can be cultivated and applied in daily life, leading to lasting peace and inner tranquility. The impact of reactionary behavior in conflicts. The ego plays a significant role in escalating conflicts. It thrives on validation, seeking to preserve our sense of identity and superiority. When someone insults us, the ego is threatened, and in turn, it demands a reaction to defend our self-worth. This is why conflicts can quickly spiral out of control, as the ego pushes us to escalate the situation rather than defuse it. The need to be right or to defend our position often leads to circular arguments that go nowhere. Even when we win these arguments, we do not gain peace. We only reinforce the cycle of stress and emotional drain. What many fail to realize is that these conflicts, while emotionally taxing, rarely lead to meaningful resolutions. In fact, they often deepen misunderstandings rather than bring clarity. Our desire to defend our position clouds the possibility of genuine dialogue, creating a barrier between us and potential growth. Breaking free from this automatic reactionary behavior is essential for emotional well-being. It requires mindfulness and the ability to pause before reacting, to assess whether the situation truly warrants a response. Practicing non-reaction, as we will explore in the following sections, is not about avoiding conflict altogether, but about responding with wisdom and perspective. By learning to recognize the triggers of our ego and choosing not to engage, we can conserve our energy, foster healthier relationships, and ultimately achieve greater peace. The ability to pause and reflect before responding creates space for better decisions and fosters a more peaceful internal environment. Understanding that not every provocation requires a response allows us to maintain clarity in situations where we might have otherwise been swept away by emotion. As we continue, we will dive deeper into the concept of non-reaction, exploring how it can help us navigate conflicts with greater ease, and how Buddhist wisdom can guide us in letting go of attachment to our egos. The concept of non-reaction as a path to peace. At its essence, non-reaction is rooted in the ability to detach ourselves from the immediate emotional triggers that often prompt us to act. It requires mindfulness, the awareness to pause before responding and to question whether our reaction will contribute to a resolution or simply fuel the conflict further. The Buddhist philosophy plays a key role in understanding this concept. Detachment, a cornerstone of Buddhist teachings, encourages us to disengage from our emotions and ego, thus allowing us to rise above situations that might otherwise disturb our peace. By letting go of the need to defend ourselves or validate our feelings, we can preserve our energy and mental clarity, steering clear of unnecessary conflict. In many everyday situations, we can see how the need to react can escalate conflicts. Consider a workplace scenario where an employee reacts defensively to critical feedback. Instead of taking the opportunity to learn and grow, the individual's immediate reaction may turn the feedback into a confrontation, draining emotional resources and possibly damaging the relationship with the supervisor. In personal relationships, a small comment from a partner might be interpreted as an insult, leading to an argument that never needed to happen. In these cases, the initial trigger, a comment, a look, or a gesture, becomes amplified by our ego's need to prove itself, resulting in unnecessary emotional stress. Ego is a central player in this process. When we react impulsively, it is often because our ego feels threatened, and it demands a response. The ego seeks validation and will go to great lengths to protect our sense of self. This is why conflicts can easily spiral out of control. Rather than responding with clarity, we become enmeshed in defending our personal identity. The need to be right can perpetuate arguments, keeping us stuck in a cycle of emotional turmoil. In these moments, we must ask ourselves, is this battle truly worth fighting? Or is it simply our ego at work? The art of silence and non-response. In the heat of a conflict, it's easy to fall into the trap of reacting impulsively. The ego, which thrives on validation and a sense of superiority, often drives these reactions. When insulted or criticized, we feel compelled to defend our self-worth, to prove our righteousness. However, this immediate response rarely leads to resolution. Instead, it can escalate the conflict, causing more stress and emotional exhaustion. Silence, on the other hand, acts as a protective mechanism. By not reacting, we avoid handing over our emotional energy to others and prevent ourselves from being swept up in the cycle of conflict. A powerful Buddhist story captures this concept perfectly. A man was walking down the street when he was insulted by a stranger. Instead of responding with anger or defensiveness, he smiled and walked away. A bystander, curious about his lack of response, asked why he hadn't reacted to the insult. The man's response was profound. If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to take it, to whom does the gift still belong? This simple yet profound teaching illustrates that insults and criticisms are like unwanted gifts. If we do not accept them, they hold no power over us. By choosing not to react, we avoid accepting the emotional poison others try to offer, thereby maintaining our peace and emotional well-being. In relationships, silence can be especially powerful. During arguments, it's easy to fall into the trap of defending ourselves, trying to prove that we are right. However, reacting defensively often fuels the fire, making the situation worse. Instead, by choosing silence, we create room for reflection. We can think more clearly and decide whether engaging in the conflict is truly worth our energy. Moreover, silence allows us to listen more attentively, which fosters empathy and understanding. By stepping back from the immediate emotional reaction, we can create a space for resolution and mutual respect. Silence is also a powerful way to disrupt the expectations of others. Many times, people engage in conflicts or provoke others simply to get a reaction. By not responding, we deny them the satisfaction of our emotional involvement. In this way, silence becomes a tool not just for avoiding conflict but for protecting our energy and maintaining control over how we engage with the world. It is an act of self-mastery, allowing us to act from a place of inner strength and wisdom rather than being driven by external forces. In the following sections, we will delve deeper into how this practice can be integrated into our daily lives and how Buddhist teachings on detachment can guide us toward mastery of silence as a means of personal growth and emotional strength. Through this process, we will explore how silence can not only improve our responses in difficult situations, but also foster a deeper sense of inner peace and emotional resilience. The power of choosing when to speak and when to remain silent. In Buddhism, the concept of mindful speech is central. This principle encourages us to choose our words carefully, ensuring that they are aligned with truth, kindness, and compassion. Speaking out of frustration or ego rarely leads to positive outcomes. In fact, such reactions can often deepen misunderstandings, create defensiveness, or lead to further conflict. On the other hand, choosing silence when necessary can help us maintain our emotional equilibrium, avoid unnecessary disputes, and create a space for thoughtful reflection. In relationships, the ability to remain silent in the heat of an argument can be incredibly powerful. When we react impulsively to an insult or criticism, we often escalate the situation, turning a small disagreement into a much larger conflict. But when we choose silence, we allow the other person to express themselves without immediately countering, which can prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. Silence gives us the space to process our emotions and reflect on the best course of action, allowing us to respond with clarity and intention rather than reacting out of anger or hurt. However, it is important to note that silence is not always the best option. There are times when speaking up is necessary to address an injustice, clarify a misunderstanding, or set boundaries. In these situations, silence can allow negative patterns to continue unchecked. Buddhism teaches that there is a time for silence and a time for speech, and both must be used wisely. Speaking with mindfulness, choosing words that are honest, kind, and constructive, is just as important as knowing when to remain silent. Achieving emotional freedom through non-reaction. The ultimate goal of practicing non-reaction is emotional freedom. This freedom comes from the ability to detach emotionally from situations, not allowing external provocations to dictate how we feel or how we respond. It's about realizing that we have the power to choose our reactions and, in doing so, maintain inner peace and emotional resilience. By letting go of the need to react impulsively or engage in every conflict, we free ourselves from the burden of negative emotions and the ongoing cycle of stress that often accompanies unnecessary arguments and disagreements. In professional settings, non-reaction can be just as beneficial. In the workplace, we may encounter situations where criticism, miscommunication, or conflict arises. Responding impulsively or defensively can only exacerbate the problem, often leading to a breakdown in communication. However, by practicing non-reaction, we can take a step back and evaluate the situation with clarity. This allows us to respond in a calm, professional manner, addressing the issue at hand without being clouded by negative emotions. The result is often a more productive conversation and a better resolution for all parties involved. Through this practice, we not only navigate life's conflicts with greater ease, but also experience a profound sense of personal transformation, ultimately leading to a more peaceful and fulfilling life.